Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Tuesday, August 30th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, bomb threats have struck the campus of Howard University just weeks after Howard and other HBCUs had to lock down and postpone classes for similar threats. Meanwhile, the midterm elections are slowly approaching, and President Biden is set to make a speech in the coming days inspiring Americans to vote, as he warns us that our rights as Americans are under attack. Then, the godmother of a black volleyball player from Duke University is here to discuss her mistreatment during a game. The story is currently getting national attention.
Plus, the bougie banker, Raquel Curtis, is back with starter tips on investing, and Beyonce is narrating a new Gatorade commercial honoring Serena Williams. We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. We start today with news about back-to-back bomb threats at Howard University. The Mecca was hit with 2 bomb threats yesterday, just as the fall semester got underway. This comes after 3 dormitories on and near the campus were evacuated last week after other bomb threats. As you may remember, Howard, along with 56 other historically black universities around the nation, were plagued by a rash of bomb threats earlier this year. Now, leaders of the historically black colleges are upset that no one has been arrested in any of the bomb threats. You know, this is really, really unfortunate, and I kind of feel like the people who are behind this are getting a little more brazen, a little more bolder, and I just don't understand why do we have any suspects. We did this story, a couple weeks ago, where we brought to attention that there has been no press conferences, there has been no updates, we know nothing. What we do continue to hear is that this is still happening. So this happened in the East and the West Towers. I actually lived in the West Towers at Howard University, so I know exactly where this is and how dangerous this could be, because it is a high-rise building. And so in the middle of the night, this happened about 2:30 in the morning. So at 2:30 in the morning, if you are getting an evacuation notice, you can either live on the 10th floor, the 12th floor. You've got to go all the way to the bottom through the stairwell, because you know, something like this, you can't take the elevator. So that's dangerous. You know, it's just what is happening. This happened Tuesday night and Thursday night. This is the 8th bomb threat for the school in the year 2022. You know, as a student there, as any student, no one deserves to live in fear. And so I just want to know what we're doing about it. What is happening? What is the plan? Is the FBI, do they have a suspect? Are they close to arresting a suspect? Like, tell us anything, because when I was looking around and researching this story, I couldn't find anything.
You know, I think it hits home even more for it to be Howard University. Of course, you attended Howard University, and to have a visual landscape in your mind of like, hey, this is what happens. And thank you for that visual too, because now I can kind of see, like, of course, if you live on the top and having to go down, but no one really wants to be in the middle of a bomb threat. No one wants to have to evacuate their home for any reason. And so to be a black person, and like you said, Mimi, for this to feel as if it's going unnoticed, because there are so many other things that go that don't go unnoticed, that get taken on hand firsthand. It is kind of disturbing, honestly, to know that so many HBCUs have had bomb threats and pretty much nothing is done. So if I were a bomb threater, I probably would continue doing it, because I'm not going to get caught. There are no repercussions as of yet.
You know, you think about what happened at the grocery store in Buffalo, New York. You think about what happened in Uvalde, the school in Texas. Now we're university, but now we're talking about black universities that's really been targeted a lot. And for not to have any kind of forward movement to, like, maybe some kind of closure to the situation, it does bring concern. School is back in. You know, kids want to concentrate on their studies and progressing in school, and yet they have to worry about this hanging over their shoulder. It's not a good look. It's very costly to the schools too when things like this happen. So financially, that could affect the school moving forward too. So we have to pay attention to that.
No, Romeo, that's a really good point. It's very costly, because then they have to call out the bomb squad, right? They've got to have the dogs go in. They've got to search the area. You know, and my mind goes back to thinking about all those freshmen who are there for the first time. I know for myself, I was coming from Anchorage, Alaska, and I had never lived in a city like Washington, D.C. You know, I was afraid. My mother was leaving me. My father was leaving me, and here I am. And so now all of a sudden you're there, and your safe haven that you think is a safe haven is being targeted with a bomb. So I mean, there's just a lot happening here for these poor kids who are starting the school year off this way.
Yeah, not to mention that when you aspire to go to HBCUs, honestly, I feel like Howard University is one of the first HBCUs that you think of, iconic, legendary institution. And so it also too kind of makes sours the thought of going to Howard University, where it's like, why would I want to go to a university that technically is not protecting me on campus?
Let me tell you something. Howard is an amazing school, right? I think that there's this issue with all the HBCUs that this is happening with, but I do believe they have a stellar campus police system, and they have a stellar DC area police that are going to keep these kids safe. What I suggest is that the FBI step up what they're trying to do to catch the person who's doing this.
Especially with today's technology. You got to be able to figure that out.
Mimi said, I'm going to tell this story, but wait.
What we not going to do.
What we're not going to do with our university.
Yeah, say what it ain't.
I love that. Absolutely. All right, the president is scheduled to deliver a primetime speech Thursday about protecting democracy. Biden is expected to warn Americans that our rights and freedoms are under attack. White House advisors say the speech will be a message to encourage voters to go to the polls just 2 months before the midterm elections. Now, Mr. Biden has become more forceful in his criticism of Republican candidates, many of which still support former President Trump, and his lies about the 2020 elections. I believe that we've here on the Black Report even have been keeping a pulse on what's going on with Trump and Mar-a-Lago home and what happened when his home was raided. And I think that all of that, it's so many things that Trump has done that have been awful. But it feels like it takes one thing to make people finally like a light bulb. Wow, this is an awful person. We don't want to have him in office. And I really feel like when he was able to get away with it over and over and over, people were like, we can still support him. But when they're zeroing in on 14 out of 15 boxes were wrong and so many things, now I think people are starting to open their eyes about Trump. And now Joe Biden is able to say, hey, everybody, wake up. This is what I've been trying to tell you. So I do believe he has a good chance at being president again. And also I'm happy that the Democrats, we talked about it before, have some talking points, getting in there. Because sometimes it feels like they kind of just are reacting to what the Republicans do versus let's say what we have to say first and control the narrative.
No, and I like that. And I think that's exactly what Biden is preparing to do. He's going to Philadelphia, which is a battleground state. He's going to talk about how our freedoms are under attack. He plans to highlight the progress that he's made so far, but note that there are still some freedoms that remain at risk. We know some of them, voting rights, care, contraceptives, abortion care for women, gay rights. There's a bunch of things that are under attack. And so I think he's getting in front of it, Demi, like you said. And he said, the White House says that he wants to make it clear who he's fighting for and to remind the American people going into midterms where they need to place their votes.
And it sounds like he's truly fighting for the American people. I feel like Biden doesn't have a problem clapping back when it comes to a situation, whether he's doing it low or he's coming right at you. Because now we have those points. I feel like they've been sitting back saying, look, the Republicans been coming at us. We have a list of things that we've accomplished. We have a list of things that they're not doing right, that they're trying to take away, like women's rights. So this is really geared up. It's called like perfect timing for the midterms.
There we go.
Definitely. All right, well, the FBI has completed their examination of possible privileged documents found in the Bureau's search of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Analysts say the Department of Justice court filing Monday could undercut Trump's efforts to have a special master appointed to review the files. The FBI says a filter team used by the DOJ sorted through the documents to weed out any material that should not be reviewed by investigators. The department's filing came in response to a decision by the U.S. District Judge to hold a hearing on Trump's motion seeking the appointment of special master.
A Georgia judge is denying a motion by Governor Brian Kemp to kill a subpoena requiring him to testify before a grand jury investigation about the interference of Donald Trump into Georgia's 2020 election. But there is good news for Kemp. He won't have to talk to Fani Willis's grand jury after the November election against Stacey until after the November election against Stacey Abrams. Now, Kemp's lawyers tried to kill the subpoena, saying his role as a governor gave him immunity from having to testify in the case, but Willis wants Kemp to testify about any communication he had with Trump or his allies in the wake of the 2020 election. Now, Trump contacted the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, asking him to find votes to overturn the election in the state.
And October 13th is the date for a Senate campaign debate between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Warnock says that he'll be there, but there are questions of whether or not Walker will show up. Herschel says that he will not appear at the debate with Warnock because, well, he says it's a Sunday and people will be watching football, but October 13th turns out that is a Thursday. Walker has danced around doing debates against Warnock for weeks. I mean, this gentleman, I'm sorry, I didn't try to make you guys laugh. I mean, honestly, it's like, come on, give me a break here. It doesn't even matter. He could tell us that the sky is blue. He's not going to come on that day because it's going to be too hot outside and he's going to be inside with air conditioning. He's going to make up any reason to not face Raphael Warnock because he's let the Republican Party use him as a pawn. And here he is, not ill-prepared, coming in ill-prepared because he knows that the real black people, we know the difference between who you are and what Senator Raphael Warnock is. And he's not ready to step in to the fire and get that smoke. So now he's going to come up with Thursday, Saturday, Monday, all these random days, but really just be truthful. They set you up to fail, and he's not prepared.
No, he's not.
I just don't even know what to say because this is just what? I mean,
it's crazy.
He had 3 dates to choose from. The campaigns got together. There was 3 dates that they could choose from. He chose a random day, and now he can't make it to the random date that he chose because now he's saying that random day is a Sunday, but turns out it's a Thursday. Did I get that right?
Well, in his defense, they do have football on Thursday. They do have one game, maybe 2 games in his defense. But look, there's nothing he can hide behind. We're already seeing what we're going to get. So at some point, he has to come out and show that he is capable of even holding down his position. So maybe that's why they're holding him back because he's still in training for that. Well, look, man, the clock is ticking, and he has to get out on that field because he can relate to what I'm saying, being a football player. Get out on that field and play ball. He's scared to play ball.
Absolutely. And what I really like is that Raphael Warnock, he put a couple of tweets. He said, I guess any day of the week sounded good to Herschel Walker until I committed to 3 debates. Then he also says, how can we expect Herschel Walker to stand up for Georgians in the Senate if he refuses to debate on stage? Drop the mic. Senator Raphael Warnock, we're voting for you. If I was in Georgia, I can't vote. But if I was in Georgia, we'd be voting for you.
Look,
absolutely.
Hands
football
down.
First.
Oh, gosh.
All right, the NAACP is pushing to kick the co-founder of Cowboys for the Trumps out of the office now. Corey Griffin is a commissioner in Otero County, New Mexico. He was also convicted of trespassing at the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. The NAACP is pointing to a clause in the 14th Amendment which says that anyone who swears to uphold the Constitution must be barred from office if they engage in insurrection or rebellion. Griffin says his free speech guarantees him protection from being removed from office. Griffin overcame a recall effort in 2018, but he was decided not to run for re-election in November.
And the only living person convicted in the D.C. sniper shooting attacks that terrorized the nation's capital back in 2002 will be resentenced. An appeals court in Maryland made the decision last week. Lee Boyd Malvo was 17 at the time of the shootings. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole in both Maryland and Virginia. Malvo and John Allen Muhammad killed 10 people in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Muhammad, who was 41 at the time of the shooting spree, he was executed in Virginia in 2009. Malvo was sentenced to life in prison in 2002, but the U.S. Supreme Court ruled years later that teen offenders could not be sentenced to life without parole under the 8th Amendment.
The OnlyFans model who's accused of killing her boyfriend is being denied bond. Courtney Clenny was extradited from Hawaii to Florida last week. A Miami judge denied her bond request during a hearing on Saturday. Clenny is being charged with murder in the stabbing death of her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli. Neighbors who lived next to the couple say they often heard fighting between the couple. Clenny's attorneys say that the client acted in self-defense. However, the prosecutors, they say that this was a case of the aggressor being aggressive. Now, an arraignment in the case is set for tomorrow.
Now to a story gaining national attention. A black volleyball player from Duke University is speaking out about the racist slurs used against her during a match against Brigham Young University. Rachel Richardson says she was threatened during the match. She says officials didn't react quickly enough when told about the fans' behavior. Now, here to talk about Rachel's experience is Rachel's godmother, Lisa Pamplin. How you doing? Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. How are you?
All right. So first question, how's the family? How's everyone holding up right now due to this?
One day at a time,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get her through this mentally.
Yeah.
Just standing behind her, praying for her, and you know, just taking taking it all in and trying to absorb what happened.
Yeah. Now, to some of our soulmates who may not know the whole story, can you tell us what happened at the game on that day?
Well, I wasn't at the game. I got a phone call at 7:45 on Saturday morning, and my friend, me and her started law school together. She called me and told me what happened, and I was like, "What do you mean what happened?" So I got the play-by-play of what happened, and it was every time Rachel went to serve the ball, she was called the N-word, and it just got aggressively. The crowd just got kind of more aggressive, but in particular, one guy said, I'm gonna follow you when you leave for the bus or something like that." And so that really scared her that happened. So they alerted the referees, and the coaches were notified, and a police officer had to come and be positioned by their bench.
It's amazing we have to deal with this in 2022. Is this the first time this happened to your niece?
Yes.
So Rachel released a statement on Instagram about the incident. How did BYU respond once Rachel made them aware of the situation? Was it quick enough? Is it what they done afterwards made them feel better as a family? What do you think?
Well, first of all, Rachel didn't alert BYU. I was the one that put out the tweet that got all started. And so once, I guess, that started getting some traction, I just wanted BYU to issue an apology to her, which they ultimately did. And then, Rachel wrote her response to what happened, and a great statement that she wrote, very heartfelt, about how she's dealing with this.
Yeah, I heard they did that before the next game. They issued that apology. What legal responsibility do schools have to protect players from this sort of thing, though?
Well, from a legal standpoint, I think the person that was banned should have had a terroristic threat, some kind of report filed on him. But their duty is just to make sure that athletes, whether you're a student or not, just that they're safe on their premises. Rachel and the athletic director have spoken a couple times, and just trying to find ways to make sure this doesn't happen again. Of course, you're going to have unruly fans in a lot of places, but you can't have her that close. Every time she served the ball, she's within like 2 feet of a student section that's doing the taunts and the heckling. That's not a safe situation for anybody to be in.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm glad you brought that up, because my question next would be, what would you like to see change with crowd involvement in collegiate sports, if any?
Well, what they did, Rachel's game, they had to take them to an undisclosed location for safety reasons, but that you can't have, that second game that BYU played, they moved that whole, nobody could sit right there in that student section. It's just too close.
Yeah. Okay, if this happens to another college athlete or even a high school one, what can they do legally? If there are any steps they can take?
Well, the buck stops with the administration. They had a talk, the parents had a talk with the AD and expressed how they felt, and they're coming up with, suggestions, I would say. Rachel's dad is deputy director of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and he's giving them suggestions, I think, through conversations on how you just got to protect the athletes. I read, where they talk about, NBA players have gone to Utah, and it's bad. I don't know if it was Russell Westbrook, but somebody took off in the stand. It's just like a culture there that makes them just go off in Utah. I don't know. And like I said, she's 19, and if you have a millionaire that's being, offended, well, how do you think a 19-year-old kid would feel if somebody's threatening and calling her the N-word throughout the whole entire game, and nobody does anything to stop it?
That is true. So was this man ever removed from the game at all?
Not at all. It wasn't until they said they went back and reviewed a tape, and then they banned that fan. So I don't. No, nobody was removed.
So he was never removed, and at any point did anyone in the audience jump in to defend her or help her?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
This is so unfortunate.
All they could do was alert the referee and the coaches, and they bear responsibility also.
Yeah.
For not taking the the mic and saying, "Hey, cut this out. You're going to get kicked out of here." It was the largest volleyball game in BYU's history, attendance-wise. And everybody failed, as Rachel said. They failed to step up to the plate.
Well, we hope and pray that this doesn't discourage her from continuing to be a volleyball player, to go to school and enjoy life. It's so unfortunate it happens in these times. But thank you so much for taking time out with us today, and we pray that your goddaughter's well, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.